Hi everybody, welcome to Flosstube number 45. I appreciate all of the texts, the messages, everyone checking in on me this last week. I missed last Sunday because we had a major storm move through our little town and neighboring towns as well. But I had to postpone it because we were without electricity until this last Wednesday evening. My husband and I had gone to church Sunday morning, got out, the sky was beautiful, and I even commented to him. I said, you know, they said we were supposed to get storms this afternoon, but there's not a cloud in the sky. It is just beautiful today. And so I really thought the weatherman maybe just made an oops. So we ran some errands, went out to have lunch, and I was just really excited about how nice the day was really turning out to be. So when we got home, I had a Zoom call with a group of friends that were all traveling over to the Great British Sampler weekend this coming fall and cannot wait for that. And we were just kind of going over some of our plans for some of the little adventures that we intend to have before the retreat and afterwards. So I'm on the Zoom call, and my sewing room here is upstairs. And our windows, most of you know, we live in a house that's over 100 years old. And so while I love the old windows, they're not very soundproof. And all of a sudden during the call, I hear the windows are making this horrible noise. And I notice the sky has gotten really dark. So I look out the window and the trees just look like they're bending over. I said, guys, I have got to go. I don't need to be, I'm like, I don't need to be upstairs with it blowing as hard as it is, because we have some very old, large trees around a portion of our house. And I thought, this is not the place to be with them blowing as hard as they are. So I went downstairs and shut everything off, got downstairs, and we're looking out our front door, and I have never seen the wind blow like it did. All the rain was blowing in sheets one direction, and then all of a sudden it switched and it blew the opposite direction. And I commented to my mother and my husband, I said, this doesn't look like a severe thunderstorm warning to me, because that's what had popped up on my phone. I said, this looks like something that's spinning like a tornado. And about that time, our flag was ripped off the pole. Well, my husband went out and took it down before it completely came off. Our poor ferns were just blowing. I thought they were gonna be in the neighbor's yard. Anyway, lots of stuff happening. So we kind of got in closer to where we wouldn't have, you know, hopefully a tree come through the window on us. But I think we were just shocked. Afterwards, my mother's like, I can't believe we stood there at the door looking at this. I said, I think we were just shocked that it hit as fast as it did. But according to reports, it was straight line winds. They recorded some of the winds getting up to 127 miles per hour. And so that's blowing pretty hard for little Conway, Arkansas. We were so blessed and so fortunate, because while we lost power, we didn't lose any of our big trees. We didn't have any damage to our house. And unfortunately, in the historic district where we live, because there are lots and lots of huge old trees, a lot of those were lost. We had one street over was completely shut down till Wednesday. They had many of the large trees either blew across the road. One house that completely caved in. I don't see how it can be repaired. And just lots and lots of damage. Thankfully, there weren't any lives lost or anyone injured severely here in our area. And so that was a blessing. But just amazed at the damage that was done in such a short amount of time. So of course, because there were so many trees down in this part of the town that we live in, we were without power. Fortunately, My youngest son lives in town, and his apartment was on the complete opposite side, and he never lost power. It just blinked a little bit. So we loaded the dogs up, and I said, it's payback time. I'm coming to stay with you now. So we went over and stayed. My husband stayed here just in case, make sure everything was okay. But he said it was so hot. Of course, summer in Arkansas, it's always hot. He said, I slept out on that porch of ours. We have a little sleeping porch off of our bedroom. And he said, I went out there because it was way too hot inside the house. And just did like they would have done years and years and years ago, I guess. But fortunately, I tell you what, the linemen, I was just so impressed with how hard they worked. I mean, they worked from the minute we lost power. They were out in their trucks trying to repair lines, just get trees off of lines. And so that was what part of the holdup was. There was so much debris that had to be cleaned before they could safely work on the lines. But I was so appreciative of just how hard they worked. Other crews from neighboring towns came in to kind of offer their help as well. And fortunately, Wednesday evening, we finally got our power back on. So all's well that ends well is what I'm going with. But thank you for your sweet messages and checking in, and thank you for being patient and waiting on Flosstube for another week. So I have some fun things to share with you today, and I can't wait to show them to you. This week, we're going to chat just a little bit about how to take a sampler. I mean, I enjoy just stitching samplers, but there are lots of times that maybe you see a sampler and you say, you know, I'm going to stitch it, but I sure do love that one little motif. That's so pretty. And I have a couple samplers that I've bought recently that have like a motif that really called to me. And so one of them I'm going to show you today. And you can take just the motif and make something completely different or new just using that one piece out of the sampler. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about a little bit today. The sampler that I chose, I'm going to show you. It's huge. She is a big girl, but she was stitched on what I believe is Congress cloth. And it was stitched by Ann Jenkins. It says Ann Jenkins, her work. And age 19 years, 1874, down at the bottom. But I love this sampler, not because it doesn't have the traditional alphabet and numerals, but it has some wonderful motifs that I just love. So I see lots of small projects happening with this particular sampler. I will reproduce it as a complete sampler, but I want to also show some things that you can do just with the individual motifs. So for the first small project that I decided to do, I'm not sure how many of you are participating in the summer camp, the cross stitch camp that Colorado Cross Stitcher promotes. But this is my first year to do it, and it is so much fun. I've loved the challenge. I've loved following along on Instagram and Facebook and seeing the different projects other people are coming up with and the creative ways that they're finishing them. So I decided that for my June challenge, it was to stitch something that had a bird. And this bird had appealed to me since I purchased the sampler. And I thought, I think I'm just going to do something with this bird in the middle. So what I did was chart just that bird. And I'm going to set this down. It's awful heavy. And I used the colors that matched the ones in the sampler. And I also had a board that I had ordered from Chantelle 141. And I know she's always got lots of cute finishing products and different designs. And so I had ordered this particular board, and I also ordered one that is a square, not having any idea what I was going to put in them, but they just looked really cute, and I thought I might need them in my stash. So this was the perfect little motif to put in this round board. So I'm going to show it to you now. So I took the little bird and just charted him and added him to this sweet little board from Chantelle's. And I know when you order it, you can order them off of Etsy, but they come in many different pieces. So like this was a bottom piece, this was a separate piece. Then you have this little wooden piece back here. You have a solid round piece. You have this top part that comes with the little, or the back piece I think comes with this little section. And then you just stick them all together. But it was super easy. They're all separate, which actually made it easier to paint and distress before I put my stitching in there. So I will probably be ordering more of these. I just love this little board. And then it's easy to set. I just have it sitting up in my sewing room for now. I'm not sure where it's going to end up, but I just love it. And so that was just a very fun, easy little piece to stitch. And I didn't have to stitch the whole sampler. So don't be afraid if you have a sampler that you just love one particular piece in it. Take it and make it your own by putting it in some other finishing item like this little particular board. That was just a fun thing to do. I painted this. I wanted to pick up the green that was in this particular piece, and I used, I'm looking to make sure I don't tell you wrong. Let me see, the green that I used on this was Clover by Folkart acrylic. I just picked it up at Hobby Lobby. I think I gave it 2 coats and then used some dark wax, kind of sanded it a little bit around the edges, and maybe you can see there a little bit, kind of on the edges there, and then went over it with the dark wax. So that was a super easy finish, just using that one little motif. And I completed my June challenge for Cross Stitch Camp. So thank you, Sherry, for sponsoring that event. It's just lots of fun. I have a little piece picked out for my July project, is something that grows. And I'm anxious to start working on that as well. So thank you for doing that. That was one little piece. I want to show you a couple of other little things that I've done, and then I'm going to come back and talk about Ann Jenkins just a little bit. Another sampler that I've had done for a while. I used it with a stitch along in a Facebook group, but this is by Christiana Frances Mary Richardson. This one is actually on my website. It's already been reproduced. It was mounted on a tavern board, just using some tacks. It's a fun finish. So all in one color. I think I just used 310 DMC. It has some 4 square top stitches, some regular cross stitches, a few eyelets. So it's a fun piece to stitch. And then the name at the bottom is over 1. But one of the side projects that we did in this stitch along with Christiana Richardson was learn a little bit about the stitcher. And so we knew what year she was born. We knew what year she stitched the sampler. So I thought it would be fun to make a little pin keep that we could include art information. So this was the little pin keep we did. 1833 was the year Christiana was born. 1841 was the year that she stitched the sampler. So I put the year that I was born, 1965, and the year that I stitched the sampler, 2020. That's kind of an infamous year, isn't it? And then along both sides, I used the same border that we have around Christiana's sampler. And so I just have this in a little dough bowl up here in my sewing room. And it's just a fun reminder of something that I had in common with the stitcher. The year I was born and the year I stitched it, along with the same for her. So that was just a fun little piece to do. And I used the numbers from the numbers in the sampler as well. Now, my latest piece I'll show you. I just finished up Bristol Weekend, and so it kind of gave me an inspired moment. I wanted to make some little brooches for some friends. And so I took the alphabet one of the ones in my Bristol to come up with the initial for a friend of mine, and then just mounted it. It's like covering a button, and that mounted on top of this little brooch. You can use E6000, you could use hot glue, any of that will hold. And so just taking a simple little alphabet and making something special out of it is easy to do with the sampler as well. So you could wear it as a little pin. You could put a magnet on the back if you didn't want to use it as a brooch and use it as a needle minder, but just a fun way to incorporate an alphabet from a sampler as well. So that's another little piece that I had done. Now I want to go back, and after I've shared some of those things, I'm anxious for you in the comments below this week. If you have taken a motif or something from a sampler and adapted it, I'd love to hear what you did. It's just fun to learn from each other, isn't it? But let's talk a little bit more about Ann Jenkins. Now, I have not completely reproduced Ann's sampler, the large one that I just showed you a little bit ago, but I have that in the queue for reproducing before market this next year. And I want to find out some history about her. So as I started looking, I came up with 3 different possibilities, and they're all so different. And I'm going to share the 3 with you. It's going to take me some more digging because I'm really not for sure which one is the correct Ann. It's like, will the real Ann Jenkins please stand up? Because I don't have a clue which one it is. But they're all 3 very different and very interesting, especially the first one that I found, and I'm going to share her story with you. I know that according to the sampler, the year that Ann made the sampler, and because it gives her age, I can figure out what year she was born. So I thought this will be easy. You know, I shouldn't have too much trouble locating the correct Ann Jenkins, but I was wrong. So when I started looking, there were 3 that popped out to me, and they were all born in England, which is where I believe this sampler originated, and all Ann Jenkins, not Ann as a middle name. I thought that might be a possibility, and so I could eliminate some of those. So I have these 3 that use Ann Jenkins just as it shows on the sampler. The first Ann Jenkins I found was baptized in June 17th, 1855. She was baptized in Hereford, England. Her mother's name was Jane. Her father's name was James. When she was 22, she married John Merrick, and that happened September the 2nd, 1877, in St. Mary's Church in Gloucester, I'm sure I'm butchering that, I'm so sorry, England. When she was 24, just 2 years later, she left England to move to Philadelphia. It didn't say whether she was traveling with her husband. I'm sure as I dig a little bit more, I can find that out in the records. But she left Liverpool, England for Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, here in the States. She apparently did not stay there her whole life because it lists, this is where it gets interesting, it lists the London workhouse when she was 39 years old. She was admitted and then discharged the same day. Now, a workhouse wasn't necessarily a great place to be. And so it makes me curious. Did her husband die? Did he just leave? Did she leave? Did she get in trouble? What happened that she was admitted and discharged in the same day? Then January 23rd, she was admitted again and discharged the next day. She wasn't gone long because she was admitted again on the 24th, the same day, and she ended up staying that time until April the 4th. So she was there a little while. So it's like she was admitted and discharged the same day, admitted and discharged the next day, but then turned right around and was admitted again. I guess they thought we better keep her a while and see if we can teach her a lesson. I have no idea, but it makes me very curious. Then there's a skip in time from the time she was in the workhouse at age 39 until she was 43 years old. And I found it was a nominal prisoner's record where on April 12th, she was admitted to this prison. I haven't found any records that say why she was admitted, but she was still admitted to a prison. She was discharged a week later, so I'm like, well, it couldn't have been too bad if she was turned loose in a week. And then at age 47, so I have that break again between age 43 and age 47, she was back in the workhouse, and she was there from February the 5th until February the 13th. And that's all I found on her so far, but I have got to dig a little bit more. I want to know why. Why was she in the workhouse? Why was she in prison? It just makes me curious. And so as I looked at all of that, I can't imagine, could she have stitched a sampler early on in her years before she started and just got into some trouble or fell on hard times, and maybe she didn't stitch anymore after that? I don't know, but I want to find out a bit more. Then I kept digging because I'm like, I just don't know that this would be her. And so I found another Ann Jenkins. I didn't find a lot of information about her, except that she was born February 17th, 1855. She was baptized June 3rd of 1855 in Westminster. Her father was Jonathan and her mother's name was Elizabeth. She married a Charles Seaman, and at age 36 in a census that I found, she was listed as a wife, and she had a servant, Emily Pryor. And so to me, there's a stark contrast between the first Ann Jenkins that I found and this one. This one seems to have led a fairly comfortable life. She was not a house servant herself. She had a house servant. So that tells me that she led a fairly comfortable life. I haven't found out anything else about her, so I've got to do some more digging. Then I had a third Ann Jenkins that popped up. And all I found on her was that her baptism was March 4th, 1855. Her father was Daniel and her mother's name was Matilda. She was born in Devon, England, and she had 3 brothers, but she was the youngest child of the family. So I really don't know. It's a huge question mark for me. So like I said, I just kind of skimmed through some records and found a few things. These 3 kind of popped up because everything else matched what I felt like the sampler would be from the UK. The dates kind of matched up. But it was amazing to me in looking at this that someone could have the same name, Ann Jenkins, could be born in the very same year and lead such very different lives. And so that's kind of interesting, just to think about that and think about what if the 2 Ann Jenkins had met each other. I wonder what they would have thought. Another thing that I'm going to share is in doing my research, the first Ann Jenkins, the one that was kind of around her, it sounded like, there were some things that popped up in her history that just kind of blew me away, in that coincidences happen sometimes. And sometimes they don't mean anything. They're just simply a coincidence, and that's kind of what this is. But it was still interesting, so I'm going to share it with you. I had said that Ann Jenkins, the first one, was baptized in Hereford, England. Well, when I was a young girl, probably junior high age, I grew up on a farm, and I loved the cows. It's like most people have pet dogs, and I had those too. I had some cows that I just loved. I named them. They would come if I called them. I really loved my cows. And the type of cow that I showed was called Herefords. They're the red with the white face, and I just loved them. And so that kind of caught my attention. I'm like, oh my goodness, I showed Herefords, you know. And I did that through junior high, high school, and my first year of college. And those are some great memories that I have of showing my cows and just spending time with them. So that was kind of a coincidence. I thought that was interesting. Then the second coincidence that caught my attention was during one of the time frames where Anne was in the prison. She was admitted to the nominal prisoners in the nominal prisoner records on April the 12th, 1898. April the 12th is my mother's birthday. Not 1898, but April 12th is her birthday. So that caught my attention. I'm like, oh my goodness, look here. This happened on the same date that is my mom's birthday. So I just thought, oh, that's another coincidence. How cool is that? Then I went down, and the very next little bit of information that I found out about Anne was when she was 47, she was admitted to the workhouse again and dismissed on February the 13th. And I'm like, oh my goodness, February 13th is my anniversary. And so I just got tickled. All three of these things are simply coincidence. But it's just kind of fun how when you're researching and looking up things, how it will pop out and just catch your attention. And so I thought the Hereford, the April 12th, and the February 13th, there were three kind of unique coincidences for Anne, and we shared those things together. So I thought that was kind of fun. I just wanted to share that with you. I will have to do a little bit more searching to see. So in the comments below, as well as sharing if you have ever taken a little motif or a portion of a sampler and made it your own, tell me your thoughts. Which one do you think she might be? 1, 2, or 3? It's kind of a challenge for us to figure out who the real Anne Jenkins might be. So I just want to also take a few moments. I'm trying to look at my notes, make sure I skipped a week and I'm all bumfuzzled trying to make sure I don't leave anything out. Oh, I did have something. I don't show a lot of haul usually, but I had to go by Hobby Lobby this week and pick up some things. And I went in for one thing and came out with several bags, and I'll show you why. You need to make a trip to Hobby Lobby if you haven't been, because, and it kind of does tie in with our sampler, taking little motifs and making something out of them. Hobby Lobby has started carrying some great finishing boards. Now, I know they're supposed to be cheese or charcuterie boards, but I look at them as a stitcher and say, those are finishing boards. So this little board I thought was adorable, and it's in the spring shop. It's priced at $7.99, but here is the bit of good news. All items that say spring shop on them were 66% off. So you need to make a run to Hobby Lobby. I know they're not open today, so tomorrow that needs to be on your list. Go to Hobby Lobby because these are fantastic for finishing. Especially, look how thick this one is. This would be great for a very small little motif just to put on there from a sampler. And at 66% off, you can't beat it. Then I found this board as well. Now this, I have some small samplers that I think this will be great to finish a sampler on. I just love this. And then they had several of these. These, once again, says Spring Shop. This one was $14.99, $15, but it was 66% off. So I'm not sure that I can even get it in the camera how tall that is. That's just a very long paddle. But this I thought would be cute. You could take a sampler, do a little alphabet, do several little alphabets, put it in the same order so you've got a long narrow piece going down the paddle. But there's lots that you could do with that as well. Then they had one a little bit shorter, not a lot, it's still pretty long. Once again, spring, it was listed at $10.99 or $11, but it's also 66% off. Now my Hobby Lobby, when I went and found these, I think it was Friday, they had tons of them. And so hopefully your Hobby Lobby near you will still have a good amount of stock as well. Then I loved this size. This was $8.99, say $9. It's in the spring shop. I can kind of hold it back where you can see the whole thing. And this would be a great size to put something on as well. And I have one of those. That's going to be my giveaway this week. I bought one for me and then one to give away. And so just looking at things a little different, like I said, I know these are meant to be either cutting boards or charcuterie boards, but as stitchers, look at things in a stitcher's eye. Look and say, you know what? I could use that and mount something on it from a sampler, or just another cross stitch chart or design from someone. I know there's several out there that have long, cute little skinny designs for holidays or whatever, or seasonal pieces, and they would be great on something like this. So go visit your Hobby Lobby and find you some stitching and finishing pieces there at 66% off. What a bargain. So that was kind of my exciting thing. My mom had gone with me, but she said, I'm just gonna sit in the car and stitch. You go in and get what you need, and I'm just gonna sit out here and stitch. So when I came out with mini bags rather than just my one little bag, she started laughing. She's like, I knew you'd find something. And I was like, I am so excited. You will never believe what I found. So I spent at least 10 minutes in the parking lot having to show her all my goodies before I ever pulled out, because what a treasure, what a find, right? The next thing that I want to share is the winner from last week. I had a little giveaway, and it was this little scissor tray that I picked up when I was at the attic, along with Sarah Ann Morris, the chart, and that was the last sampler that I talked about on my Sampler Sunday. And so this chart and this little scissor tray go together, and that winner was Linda Spost. So Linda, if you will either email me or just send me a message on Facebook, I need your mailing address and I'll get these shipped out to you this week. I do want to take a few minutes. We got lots of new subscribers last week, and I'm so excited to read your comments and have you join us on the Sunday sampler chats. It's kind of fun. I know it's just me sitting here talking, but I feel like I'm having a conversation with you. So thank you for joining me on Sunday. I look forward to it and enjoy sharing some things about samplers with you, as well as reading all of your comments. So if you have not subscribed yet, please do. Hit the bell button so that way when I upload a new video, you'll get a notification. You'll know there's one up there waiting for you. Also, if you have friends that like to watch Flosstube, please share my channel with them, especially if they love to learn a little bit more about history and samplers. I'd love to have them join us as well. Now, next week, I haven't made my mind up yet, so next week will probably just be a surprise. I've been looking at a couple different samplers, trying to decide what I want to talk about next week, so I've just got to make my mind up. So next Sampler Sunday video will just be a surprise. But I am getting excited. I am taking, and I'll show it. If I don't get a video with it, I'll post a picture of it on my Instagram. But I am working currently, my whip, I guess, for right now, I am working on taking several of the dividing bands off of my Bristol, and I'm making them into a little pincushion drum. I'm going to Silver Needle Retreat. We leave a week from Wednesday. I cannot wait. Mom has wanted to go there for so long, and this year it worked out where we could go. I cannot wait, and neither can Mom. She's so excited. So we're getting all of our stuff gathered up for that, and I know they do a little pincushion or Christmas ornament exchange. Mom's doing an ornament, I'm doing a pincushion, and so I'll show you that maybe next week, and because we won't be there yet, so I'll still have it here with me to share with you. So that's just another way that I'm taking some pieces from a sampler and turning it into something completely different. And but anyway, we're looking forward to that. I'm trying to get some more models stitched, and just lots to share and lots to do. But you guys, I hope will have a great rest of your Sunday afternoon. I'm going to go downstairs and get a little bit more stitching in myself. I hope you have time to do some of that today as well. And take care. Stay out of the heat if you're in an area like we are. And just try and stay cool and do some stitching. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.